Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast with your hosts, Reese Downing and Jacob Workman.
What's going on, guys? It is TNT Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast, NFL edition, Week 17 picks. Coming at you a little early this week with the holiday landing on Tuesday and Wednesday. With me, as always, is the fine citizen, Mr. Jacob Workman. Jake, how's it going, brother?
Everything's good. It's nice to hear no syphilis in the voice this week for you. So good, glad it's improved.
Yes, the non-syphilis has left my system, thankfully. So just in time there. Let's do a quick recap of where we're at so far. Obviously, we've got one more game left since we're coming at you Monday. The Packers are playing the Saints later tonight. So far this week, Jake is 9-6. He did miss his lock and dog in Seattle and San Francisco. Total for the year is 124 and 113. I'm sitting at 11-5. I also missed my lock and dog in Buffalo and Denver. I'm sitting at 126 and 111, so not too far off there. Just 2 games ahead. We both do have Green Bay picked to win the game tonight. Kickoff on that one is 8:15 at Lambeau Field on ESPN. Over under is 42.5. Green Bay is favored by 13.5 when we picked last week. I think that line's actually bumped up 1 point, I think, since then. Excuse me. But overall, we do both have Green Bay winning that game pretty handedly. Let's do a quick recap on the scores from Week 16. Chargers beat the Broncos 34-27. The Chiefs beat the Texans 27-19. Ravens beat the Steelers 34-17, and they have clinched a playoff spot, that being Baltimore. The Falcons beat the Giants 34-7. Jake, what were your thoughts on Michael Penix's first start as a Falcon?
I mean, overall, the numbers weren't ridiculous or anything. I mean, they were playing the Giants, so he didn't really have to do a lot. But, I thought he looked good. It was nice to see that Penix touch out there again. I've always said he throws one of the best balls I've ever seen, and it was nice to see that back on the field. He did get an interception, even though it was not his fault at all. But stats are stats, and he's going to get an interception. But unfortunately, still doesn't have his first touchdown yet. But I think that'll change this week.
Yeah, I thought he looked pretty good. I think that was the same feedback that Coach gave him at the end of the day. Or at the end of the game. He finished 18-27, went for 202 and an interception. They leaned pretty heavily into the ground game when they were playing the Giants, but that game was out of hand by halftime. I think they were up 17-7, and then they scored 2 touchdowns in the third. So by the time they got to the fourth quarter, they were putting it on cruise control. Moving right along here, the Lions beat the Bears 34-17. The Lions have also officially clinched a playoff spot. Jake, I know the injuries have had you a little nervous just about what's to come here, but how do you feel about your Lions performance on Sunday? And it looks like you guys also have gotten some decent news. Monty may be back. It sounds like he may not be season-ending injury. Anzalone looks like he may be able to make it back potentially for the playoffs. If you guys make it to the Super Bowl, Hutch is saying that he's going to be playing. So you guys are, getting bit by the injury bug, but it looks like you're getting some decent news here as you guys got a pretty big win over a division rival.
Yeah, the key, actually, the biggest thing that happened this weekend was Washington beating Philly for us. Obviously, this week we all become Packers fans now because if the Packers can beat the Vikings on Sunday, we will be playing for the number 1 seed on Monday night in San Francisco, and that could be huge. The game against the Vikings in Week 18 will not matter at all. Obviously, that's the goal. But yeah, guys coming back healthy. I mean, obviously we played the Bears, so it's not that huge of a game. I mean, they're pretty shitty, but to put the performance out there, we played another Ben Johnson masterpiece with a fake fumble play for a touchdown pass.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
It's just beautiful. But yeah, guys coming back week by week. We got 2 back last week, and we'll just have to wait and see what's coming. Obviously, the Niners losing Sunday, I think, helped a little bit because I think their plans are kind of over for the season. So things might just be working into our favor as we glide on here. Yeah, obviously, if we have to play a week 18 game against the Vikings at home, that's probably getting flexed to Sunday Night Football. That's probably essentially going to be a playoff game for us. I mean, to think that we could possibly win 14 games and be on the road in the playoffs as the 5 seed is crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. Yeah, and Minnesota just keeps finding ways to win despite, we talked about them quite a bit about the talent, the level there, maybe a little bit question mark. Another thing that I found interesting that came out, I think I think it was on Sunday. NFL Network insider Tom Pelissero reported that Lions OC Ben Johnson is, quote, intrigued by the Bears opening and is willing to listen to overtures, noting that there's a lot to like with the franchise, including Caleb Williams, tons of cap space, some extra draft resources. You're obviously tuned in to all the insider stuff on the Detroit side of the equation. Anything that you've heard that may be different?
No, that seems to be true. I mean, obviously, if I'm Ben Johnson, I think that would be a hell of a place to go. You've got an incredibly young quarterback. Obviously, the receivers are a little old outside of Rome Odunze. I said that at the beginning of the year. I really questioned a team with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. I mean, that's a lot of injuries and a lot of experience that's getting old. Their offensive line's not good. Their run game sucks. Their defense isn't very good. There's a reason I said that they were not getting anywhere near that win total at the beginning of the year. I think it was like 8.5 or 9. It was something insane. And I mean, it's proven every week. And Caleb, obviously, he's never really lost before. So now he's having to experience losing for the first time in his life in a grand scheme. But in the Ben Johnson scheme of it, like, why? I think it's a perfect situation for a guy like Ben Johnson. If the team's willing to spend the money, why not? Like, I don't know if there's going to be a better opportunity that opens with that many weapons.
Yeah. 100% agree with you. We'll see what happens. Selfishly, I hope that he ends somewhere else in the NFC, but the way that the Cowboys have been playing the past couple of weeks, with our luck, McCarthy's going to get an extension.
Yeah. I think Big Mike will probably still be around next year. And then I mentioned it. I don't know if it was last week or a few weeks ago, but I still have been hearing a lot of Cliff Kingsbury to Chicago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that would be interesting in itself. We saw what Cliff did with Kyler, so let's see what he can do with another young quarterback in Caleb. So obviously we still got quite a bit of the season left before we start seeing coaches moving around. But that is something that got dropped on Sunday from Tom Pelissero on the NFL Network. Let's run through the rest of these scores from week 16 that we have so far. The Bengals beat the Browns 24-6. The Colts beat the Titans 38-30. The Rams beat the Jets 19-9. The Commanders, as we just talked about, beat the Eagles 36-33. The Eagles did still clinch a playoff spot despite the loss. The Panthers keep playing much better than what they did to start the season. They beat the Cardinals in overtime 36-30. Vikings beat the Seahawks 27-24. Bills beat the Patriots 24-21. Raiders beat the Jags 19-14. The Dolphins beat the Niners 29-17, and the Cowboys beat the Bucks 26-24. Obviously, again, we've got the game tonight. New Orleans is going to be in Lambeau. New Orleans came out, or I guess it would have been Rizzy came out yesterday, I believe, and said that Derek Carr has gone through some additional evaluation. It looks like he's not going to be back before the end of the season. I think we kind of thought that ahead of time, but they've pretty much confirmed it. So the Saints will be starting their backup in cold weather environment. That probably doesn't bode well for the Saints. They haven't been playing that well since week 3 or 4. So moving through a couple different updates here. Teddy Bridgewater, who just coached his alma mater, Miami Northwestern, to a state title recently, has said that he is planning on trying to return to the NFL next season. The Arizona Cardinals and safety Budda Baker have agreed to a 3-year, $54 million extension that will take him through the 2027 season. Panthers quarterback Bryce Young, who we just talked about, has drastically improved since returning to the starting lineup. He will remain as Carolina's starter for the rest of the season, per head coach Dave Canales. The path for the Washington Commanders to actually return to the nation's capital is pretty clear after the U.S. Senate passed a resolution to transfer the land that includes RFK Stadium from the federal government back to the District of Columbia for the next 99 years. So it looks like Washington does have a pretty clear path to actually return to playing in D.C. Patriots head coach Gerard Mayo is expected to return to the Patriots as the head coach in 25, barring a collapse over the last couple weeks of the season. The Browns' Myles Garrett passed 100 sacks in his career on Sunday, tying Hall of Famer Bruce Smith for 4th fastest all-time to that milestone. Raiders' Brock Bowers became the 3rd rookie tight end in NFL history to eclipse 1,000 yards and the 1st in league history to hit 100 catches as a rookie. And finally, reports are out of Miami that they may release defensive line Calais Campbell if the Dolphins fall out of playoff contention before the end of the year. So he has an option to land with a playoff bound team. He's 38 years old, probably in the last year or two of his career. Also likely going to end up landing as a Hall of Famer. The Dolphins, I think, are going to figure out by end of day Saturday whether or not they're still in playoff contention. And if that happens, if they do get knocked out, it sounds like they're going to release Campbell so he can go find a playoff team.
Detroit.
Possibly. Just two quick injury updates. Well, we already talked about Derek Carr. The second thing here, Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts did suffer a concussion in Sunday's loss to the Washington Commanders in the first quarter of the game. He did not return and is currently under the league's concussion protocol. And Tank Dell, unfortunately, suffered a pretty bad knee injury, dislocated his kneecap. He also tore his ACL and a couple other issues. He's going to be out for an extended period of time, which is rough for the Texans, who have now lost their second primary receiver after already losing Stephon Diggs. Nico Collins is out on an island right now, kind of by himself. So
they did get the claim for Deontay Johnson today, as much as that helps.
Yeah, I don't know how much that helps. He can't seem to get his head in the right space, but we'll see what happens with that. All right, let's take a quick look at the playoff picture before we start picking games for Week 17 here. One thing changed on the AFC side, and it's the same thing that happened last week. The Chargers and the Broncos keep flip-flopping. So the Broncos have slid back down to the 7th spot and are now tagged to travel to Buffalo to play the Bills in round 1. The Chargers have bumped back up to the 6th spot. They are planning on traveling to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers. And then in the 4-5 spot is still Baltimore heading to Houston, which is actually the game in Week 17 this week. So we may see this happen 2 times in the next 3 weeks. On the NFC side, the Rams have not only passed the Seahawks, but they moved up to the 3 spot. So now they have the Packers heading to LA for their first round game. The Falcons, after their win last week, have now jumped the Bucks, and they are now in the 4 spot, and they have the Vikings heading to Atlanta in the wild card matchup. The Commanders and Eagles, who just played this week, the Commanders actually beat the Eagles, albeit it was in Landover, are slotted to travel to Philly to play the Eagles in round 1 on the NFC wildcard side. Jake, anything to call out here?
Not really. I know Atlanta's in the 4 spot now, but if you look at the remaining schedules, it does look like that's probably still going to be Tampa more than likely. The rest of the NFC is really set. There's not really any other changes that's going to happen there other than seeding reasons. Obviously, I still love the Lions being the 1. I just talked a little bit ago of how they can clinch the 1 seed this week. AFC, I mean, it's kind of all the same. It's kind of interesting to just look at that and just think if the Steelers and Bills were to win, the Chiefs' first playoff game is the Ravens. Like that's a hell of a situation there.
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna be a tough road, and Kansas City keeps winning football games, but they are not doing it in pretty fashion. That's for sure. So we'll see what happens as we move into the playoffs here. We only got 2 weeks in the regular season left before this is set. So, all right, let's move into Week 17 picks. We've got a crazy schedule for you guys this week. Week 16 actually kicks off on Christmas this year with 2 matchups. The first of which is the 14-1 Kansas City Chiefs against the 10-5 Pittsburgh Steelers, 1 p.m. at Acrisure Stadium on Netflix. So you're going to need a Netflix subscription to watch the games on Christmas. Over under in this one is 43.5. KC is favored by 2.5.
Yeah, I'm taking the Chiefs. This is the time of year they generally get going. It's a low spread. I like them at home to handle it here.
Yeah, there's a lot on the road.
Sorry.
On the road, yeah, a lot on the line here. The Chiefs need to lock in the number 1 seed. Steelers need this to stay ahead of the Ravens. It is a tough matchup, but KC just keeps finding ways to win. This is a relatively small spread, so I'm also going to take KC here to win and cover. The second of our Christmas Day games features the 10-5 Baltimore Ravens as they head to Space City to take on the 9-6 Houston Texans. 4:30 p.m. kickoff at NRG Stadium, also on Netflix. We just talked about this, but this may be the first of 2 meetings for these teams in the span of 3 weeks, as right now the Ravens are slotted to travel to Houston to play the Texans in the wild card round of the playoffs. Over under in this one is 46.5. Baltimore is favored by 5.5.
Yeah, I like the Ravens in this one. I think we might be witnessing another media bias here for the MVP, because I honestly think Lamar should be league MVP over Josh Allen, but I don't think we're going to get to I think the media is going to give it to Josh Allen. But what Lamar's doing is ridiculous, and I think it continues here. And I still don't think Houston's very good.
Yeah, I definitely think that the Ravens are a much better team, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. Now Stroud's going to be down another receiver in Tank Dell. I agree with you that I think Lamar should be in the conversation for MVP, especially after Josh played against the Patriots this past week. But yeah, I'm also going to take Baltimore here. Unless they shoot themselves in the foot, this should be a pretty easy win for them. So I'm going to take Baltimore here to win and cover. Our Thursday night football matchup has the 8-7 Seattle Seahawks flying to the Windy City to battle the 4-11 Chicago Bears. 8:15 p.m. kickoff at Soldier Field on Amazon Prime. Over under is 43.5. Seattle is favored by 3.5.
Yeah, this one's a little tricky to me. I think the Bears can win this game. Seattle's been all over the place lately. I was really rooting for them, but like in typical Seattle fashion, they let the Lions down like they have the last 3 years in a row. I just think it's too many. I'm going to take the Bears. I think the Bears can win this game.
Yeah, Seattle's definitely in a must-win situation for the rest of the year if they want a shot at squeezing into the playoffs, but they also need the Rams to trip up. I think the Seahawks are the better team here, especially when Walker's healthy. So I am going to take a flyer and take the Hawks here to win and cover in Chicago. So not only do we get Wednesday matchups this week, but we also get a trifecta Saturday games. First up, we have the 9-6 Los Angeles Chargers as they head to Foxborough to take on the 3-12 New England Patriots. 1 p.m. kickoff at Gillette Stadium on NFL Network. Over under in this one is 43.5, and the Chargers are favored by 5.5.
Yeah, the Patriots played pretty well against Buffalo last week, but I don't know, you just have to wonder how much they are really going to keep carrying at this point. The Chargers have a purpose. They're in the playoffs. They need to keep winning, really. So I'm going to take the Chargers. It is kind of a bigger spread than I like for the road, but I'm going to take the Chargers.
Yeah, there's a couple things that concern me about this game. The spread is one of them, but this is also a tough spot for LA because they're playing in cold weather and they're playing at 10 a.m. their time. Mm-hmm. That doesn't really bode well for them. So I think LA ends up winning this game, but I see it being a close one. So I'm going to take the Pats plus the points. I see the Chargers probably winning this one by 3. Next up, the 9-6 Denver Broncos head to the Midwest to take on the 7-8 Cincinnati Bengals. 4:30 p.m. kickoff at Paycor Stadium on NFL Network. Over under is 49.5. Cincy is favored by 3.
Yeah, Cincinnati has a very, very low percentage chance of making the playoffs, but it is still possible. Obviously, winning this is a must. Denver's defense is just playing really well, and I'm not sure I can trust Cincinnati. This is one of those games that this will at least be a good one to watch. I will take Cincinnati just because they're at home, but I'm not confident in this one at all. I think Denver could easily win this game.
Yeah, it should be a good matchup with Denver's defense against Burrow. I don't like that since he's only laying 3 here. I feel like this may end up being a push. Denver has made a couple mistakes on the defensive side of the ball the past couple weeks. So I'm going to take Cincy here to win and cover at home, but this is not a game I would be laying any money on. The last of our Saturday matchups is an NFC West showdown as the 7-8 Arizona Cardinals fly to Inglewood to take on the 9-6 division-leading LA Rams. 8:15 p.m. kickoff at SoFi Stadium, also on NFL Network. 48.5 is the over-under. The Rams are favored by 5.5.
Yeah, Cardinals returning back to the West Coast after playing Carolina. Kind of shit the bed in that one. I think the Rams are rolling right now. Back at home, I mean, they've got a division to win. I'm going to take the Rams minus 5.5.
Yep, I'm with you. I am also on LA. The first of our early day games on Sunday is an NFC East matchup as the 7-8 Dallas Cowboys face off against the 12-3 Philadelphia Eagles. 1 p.m. at Lincoln Financial Field on Fox. Over under is 43.5. Philly is favored by 9.5. And just as a reminder, Jalen Hurts is currently in concussion protocol. They do not know if he's going to start.
Yeah, that's a big deal right now. For that sake, I'm just going to take Dallas plus 9.5. 9.5 to me makes it seem like he's playing. That I don't think the number would be that high if he wasn't. So, but I will take Dallas plus the 9.5.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I can see this potentially maybe being a 10-point game if Jalen does play. But Dallas has been actually playing pretty well the past couple weeks. I'm going to say that Dallas keeps us within a touchdown. So I'm going to take the Cowboys to cover. Next up is the 7-8 Indianapolis Colts as they head to East Rutherford to take on the 2-13 New York Football Giants. 1 p.m. at MetLife Stadium on Fox. Over under is 40.5. Indy is favored by 7.5.
Honestly, I'm not sure if either one of these teams should ever be favored by 7.5. That seems like a lot. I'm going to take the Giants to cover.
Yeah, Giants are just a mess right now. The Colts at this point still have a very wide outside shot at making the playoffs. Even if they do get eliminated by the end of the day Saturday, I still think they're a slightly better team. So I'm going to take the Colts here to win and cover. But again, this is one of those games I would not be putting any money on. Next up, the 3-12 Las Vegas Raiders head to the Big Easy to battle the currently 5-9 New Orleans Saints. 1 p.m. at Caesars Superdome on Fox. Over under in this one right now is 39.5, and New Orleans is favored by 2.5.
Yeah, if there is a such thing as a Raiders fan nowadays, they have to be furious over the stunt they pulled by beating Jacksonville, dropping their draft pick all the way down to like 7 now. That was an idiotic decision. I mean, at this point, obviously they're playing to win. I don't think the Saints are very good. It's going to be a short week returning back home. I'll take the Raiders.
Yeah, this is another tough one to get. I'm giving this. I'm taking the Saints just because a slight nod with it being at home. But again, to your point, the Raiders at this point would benefit to lose. So I don't know what's going to happen in this one, but I'm going to take New Orleans here minus the 2.5. Next up is an AFC East showdown as the 4-11 New York Jets fly to Orchard Park to take on the 12-3 Buffalo Bills. 1 p.m. at Highmark Stadium on CBS. Over under is 46.5. Buffalo is favored by 9.5.
Yeah, if the Chiefs win on Christmas, then this game's pretty irrelevant for the Bills. So I'm going to take the Jets plus 9.5 just because the Bills might not be playing some guys in this one.
Yeah, that's true. I'm going to assume right now that Buffalo ends up playing everybody. They did have a rough game on Sunday. I expect them to bounce back. And frankly, even if they don't start everyone, this Jets team has just been all over the place this year. I'm going to take Buffalo here to win and cover, even though it is a pretty significant spread. Another divisional battle here, this time in the AFC South, as the 3-12 Tennessee Titans head to Duval County to face the 3-12 Jacksonville Jaguars. 1 p.m. at Everbank Stadium on CBS. 40.5 is the over-under. Jacksonville's favored by 1.5.
This is a true draft pick bowl here.
Yes.
I'll take the home team. We'll take Jacksonville.
Yeah, this was a difficult game to pick here. I think Tennessee's got a little bit more talent. I don't know if they're going to. I don't know how this is going to play out because both these guys are vying for draft spots. I'm going to take Tennessee here just because I'm getting points. The last of our early day games is yet another divisional battle, this time in the NFC South, as the 4-11 Carolina Panthers head to the Gulf Coast to battle the 8-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 1 p.m. at the Ray J on CBS. 49.5 is the over-under. Tampa is favored by 7.5.
Yeah, Carolina and former offensive coordinator for Tampa can go in there and ruin their postseason. I said earlier, I think Tampa's pretty much in that playoff spot because of their remaining schedule. This is one of the games I was talking about, getting Carolina at home. I think Tampa's got to come out and put on a show to get back in the playoff hope. So we'll go Tampa minus 7.5.
Yeah, Tampa needs to bounce back here, but this is a tough game because the Panthers have been showing signs of improvement the past couple of weeks, and I think they would love nothing more than to come into Tampa and ruin Baker's shot at making the playoffs this year. I think Tampa ends up winning this game somehow, but I don't trust the 7.5 spread, so I'm going to take Carolina here plus the 7.5. The first of our afternoon games features the 7-8 Miami Dolphins as they fly north to take on the 3-12 Cleveland Browns. 4:05 p.m. kickoff at the aptly named Cleveland Browns Stadium on CBS. Over/under is 40.5. Spread, Miami is favored by 6.5.
Yeah, I'm guessing weather's going to be shit and Tua never plays well in bad weather. So we're going to take the Browns plus 6.5.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think Miami's probably likely to win this game, just how Cleveland's looked the past couple weeks, but I don't like the 6.5 spread here, especially with the weather. So I am also going to take Cleveland in the points. The last of our afternoon games is a pretty big one. It's an NFC North battle. The 10-4 Green Bay Packers are taking on the 13-2 Minnesota Vikings. 4:25 p.m. at US Bank Stadium on Fox. 48.5 is the over/under. Minnesota comes in favored by 1.5.
Yeah, I'm just picking based on what I need to happen. I will take the Packers. We need them to win outright and set up for a big Monday night.
Yeah, Minnesota keeps finding ways to win. Green Bay's peaking at the right time. They're getting healthier every week. This is a tough pick, man. I'm going to take the Vikings to find a way to get a win here at home. I'm going to lay the 1.5 and take the Vikings. Our Sunday night football matchup features the 8-7 Atlanta Falcons as the Dirty Birds fly to Landover to face off against the 10-5 Washington Commanders. 8:20 p.m. kickoff at Northwest Stadium on NBC. 47.5 is the over-under. Washington is favored by 4.5.
My guy Michael Penix shines in the spotlight. Obviously, we've got a rookie battle here. It's going to be a fun one. I am going to take the Falcons to cover. I do think the Commanders win the game, though.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching Penix go up against Daniels. I think it's going to be a fun game. Washington, I think, needs to avoid a little bit of a cliffhanger here after beating the Eagles on Sunday. I'm with you. Commanders may get the W, but I'm taking the Falcons plus the 4.5 to keep this one close enough. I see this as a 3-point win either way. Our Monday Night Football matchup is a rematch of the NFC Championship from last year as the NFC leading 13-2 Detroit Lions head to the Bay to battle the 6-9 San Francisco 49ers. 8:15 p.m. kickoff at Levi's Stadium on ESPN. 51.5 is the over-under. Detroit comes in favored by 3.5.
Yeah, I talked about last week how Dan Campbell uses fitting his name's Dan also, the Dan Lanning, very, very motivational build up to the week to get to the game on Sunday, this week, Monday, and kind of just spread that message. A lot of the guys on this team remember how close we were in this exact same stadium. I think the message is going to be pretty simple. We win. Hopefully it clinches the 1 seed. If not, still it puts us in line for the next week to go play for the 1 seed in our home field. I think the message will be spread pretty clear, and I think the guys are going to come out ready. I'll take the Lions to cover this one.
Yeah, I know both these teams are battling injuries, but this line is actually a little bit surprising to me. I think Detroit comes into this one looking to get a little payback from last year after that collapse. So I am also going to take Motor City here to win and cover. Just like the past couple weeks, we've got no bye teams. Let's move into our locks of the week. Jake, who's your lock?
So my lock of the week is what we just talked about. I'm taking the Lions at San Francisco. Lions minus 3.5. Like I just said, you don't even really need to even say anything. The guys on this team know what they're going into, and they know what we're trying to get some revenge for.
I'm right there with you, man. My lock is also Detroit over San Francisco minus 3.5.
Dog of the week. Obviously, we just talked about this. I'm playing some favorites here, but Packers plus 102 to go into Minnesota and beat them and make our game Monday for the number 1 seed.
I dig it. I'm going to take a little bit of a flyer here and take Atlanta over Washington. I think after getting the win against Philly last week, Washington may come in a little bit flat. Atlanta is also really pushing for a final playoff spot here. So I'm going to take Penix and the Falcons to get a win over the Commanders. All right, guys, that is it for us for week 17. We will be back at you guys next Monday again because of the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day scheduling. We're off this week on the college football show. We will be back to you guys next Monday night to recap all of the craziness that happens with the college football playoffs and all of the other games that have been played so far. That is it for us this week. So I hope everybody has a solid Christmas. We'll see you guys on the 30th. For Jacob Workman, this is Reese Downing, TNT Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast, NFL Edition, Week 17 picks. We'll see you guys next week.
See you, everyone.